Hello. Welcome, everybody. We're back. It occurs to me that we don't chat. I mean, normally I walk into a classroom and I just, whatever's in my brain, off I go. So I just thought I would just start this video with just catching up with things. So I hope you're well. Hope everything's going smoothly and you're all taking care of yourself and taking care of each other. There's a wonderful article in today's paper. Today is the 15th, about how things expire, when they expire, what expires quick, and think. You know what I didn't know? I didn't know of the three kinds of containers: metal, glass, and plastic. Which ones contain longer? And I didn't know this, but I thought it was cans. It's actually glass, and then cans, and then plastic. See, little known things, little things like that. What else is new? If I were in front of the classroom right now, you would be able to see that I'm wearing a boot about 2 feet, foot and a half big. I tore a tendon because I'm a runner, and I had some special process called PRP, which is plasma-rich platelets. They take blood out of my arm, they put it to your foot, and, only the hotshot athletes and celebrities like myself have that done. I'm also eating well. My wife's a great cook, thank goodness, and she's cooking up a storm. She always cooks, but I mean, this is particularly good because she wants to make it interesting. So I'm really eating well. I hope you are too. You should be, not just Cheetos and Red Bull, whatever. And I'm also doing a lot of reading. I'm actually I'm not really one of those people that juggles 3 or 4 books at once. Some of my friends can do that. I do 1 or 2 at a time, and I'm reading, there's some book I'm reading somebody recommended, but one I'm really liking, and you might like, is Frankenstein. Some of you maybe read that in high school. I never read the whole book. I read excerpts growing up, especially in grad school, but I just sat down and I'm loving it. It's, once you get into the rhythm of it, it's 19th century, but it's wonderful. Boy, they could tell a story then. It is absolutely nothing like the movies Frankenstein. Absolutely nothing, not even close. Anyway, if you're looking for a good book, there's a good book. Maybe I'll recommend some books in some of the other. I'm also looking at, what am I looking at? I'm also reading a book called Snow Country, which is from a Nobel Prize winning Japanese writer. It's pretty good. And I've got 2 other small books that I want to read. I'm doing small because they seem to be bite-sized. You can do them quickly and you sort of feel good about yourself. One of them is by Norman Mailer, famous American writer, called The Prisoner of Sex. And another classic by Saul Bellow called Seize the Day. These aren't, YA novels, but they're all classics and, recognized as being good by the whoever makes those decisions. I don't know. But I'm looking to read those. So you might want to pick up one of those things, or whatever you like. You should read something. It's a good time to get this done. Anyway, I just posted a 1-page article about music. It came as an introduction to a magazine section in the New York Times a few months ago, maybe last year. They do that occasionally. The whole issue is devoted to just music. And it's kind of an interesting thing. I'm going to read highlights of it to you soon, but as I said in another video, I think, I really sort of wish we were in the classroom with this. We could be blasting music, sort of like I'm trying to do now, actually. This is on Spotify, by the way, and it's a blues guitar instrumentals. If you have Spotify, you can find this. This is a whole bunch of different people. This is Eric Clapton right now. If you like the blues, but there it is. I wish we were in the I was going to say studio, in the classroom to enjoy all this, because music is sort of, I think, wonderfully communal. The problem with doing a pop culture class, as you probably already realize, is that it changes constantly. Music is particularly noticeable for this. So by the time we even start talking about the music that you're going to send in to me, I mentioned this already in an email, it'll probably be outdated by the time we get it, which is fine. It doesn't make a difference. We can still talk about music and what it stands for and reflects and means and all that stuff, no matter what. But there's a couple of areas of music that I think we should discuss, besides just listening to the songs that we like, for whatever reason. There's a couple of things. One of the things that this essay brings up is the whole idea of identity. I won't read the whole thing. I'll read a couple of lines. I highlighted it. Even on the picture online, you'll see. It starts off with a sentence that says, "A strange thing you learned about American popular music, if you look back far enough, is that for a long time it didn't much have genres. It had ethnicities." And again, this is going back to my childhood, way before you. A lot of music was ethnic. Let's play that. As he mentions here, there were songs from the South. There was Italian songs, that's Amore, or whatever. Latin songs, Hawaiian songs, Asian songs. The certain people played certain kinds of music. This was absolutely just standard operating procedure. This is the way people thought. And it fit the stereotypical practicality, or the practical stereotypical way of looking at things. That is, it's easy to put things in compartments. It was sometimes racist. You go back far enough, it was terrible. But a lot of it wasn't racist. It was just, that sounds like an Italian song. That sounds like an Asian song, whatever it was. The idea that music came from particular people. Different styles sprang from different people. I'm reading now. But then it says this all changed, and we decided to start thinking of pop music not as a folk tradition, but as an art. Now I'm just going to go out because I'm going to just claim that I'm an authority. I mean, I look like an authority. Look at me. And I think this treating it as an art started end of the 50s, 60s. The 50s still had plenty of ethnic music. I mean, Elvis Presley sang Hawaiian songs, and Don Ho was the Hawaiian singer, and the Asian songs, and all that stuff. It was still happening. The 60s was quite, every time I come back to something new, a lot of it happened in the 60s. And again, I'm not saying it was the greatest decade in the world, but it was certainly something that had a lot of things going on. Anyway, I think in the 60s, and you realize there wasn't a particular person who, even though we had the British invasion, nobody said, well, that's British music. Nobody said, that sounds like a British song. It didn't have a sound that was British. The sound that we got just happened to come from Britain. Quite a different thing. Anyway, and suddenly it's an art form. Suddenly pop music becomes an art form. It's not made by particular people. It's made by artists, musicians, writers, performers. However, again, you keep on running along the timeline, and again, I'm quoting here, the vexing thing we call identity, which we just spent time talking about a couple of weeks ago, leans its considerable weight on all kinds of questions, which sounds it either comforts or excites us, it says. And so suddenly we can tell sort of the identity, and again, identity is now including, again, male, female, ethnicity, all kinds of things. Who likes this kind of music? Who's the kind of person who embraces this particular genre? And so it says this is what we talk about now. The music makers and the music listeners both, not the fine details of genre and style. Everyone allegedly listens to everything now. But the networks of identity that float within them, artists have to figure out who they're speaking to and where they're speaking from. And the rest of us do the same, for better or for worse. It's all about identity. Wow, I ended it right as the song ended. I'm that good. Anyway, it's worth reading, but it certainly brings up this notion of identity within the music. And again, even amongst you, I'm sure if we were in the classroom and I asked people what they're listening to, would be things like, well, I like this little indie band from Indiana, or, I like this, or I like whatever. And suddenly people tend to look at that person and say, well, of course he does. Look at him. Well, of course she does, or whatever. Or you like that music, you probably like this too. We love to do this. Anyway, before we get to the actual songs, which we will not get in this video, think of other things. There's lots of things to think about in terms of music. And I'm going to throw in movies and TV just as a little bit because of the mechanisms that we use to listen. There's other things to write about for this last paper that we're headed towards besides just, here's my favorite song and why. Which, by the way, I'm not going to ask you to write about. It's not about your favorite song anyway. One of the things to think about is how we listen to things. And this segues into TV and movies too. So again, you all know this list already. We begin with vinyl, right? Which had a resurgence, I know, but still, those of us who grew up with vinyl, that was all we had. Then we had 8-tracks. There was nothing good about 8-tracks. I don't care what anyone says. They were big and clunky, and they didn't stop and go at the right place. You couldn't find it. They were wrong. They were immoral. We had cassettes. I still like cassettes. They were cute little, pop those things in, pop them out. You can carry them around in your pocket. It was great. CDs, of course. MP3s, then streaming. Now you've got Pandora. I'm doing Spotify right now. And so my question here that I'm positing to you is just start thinking about the nature of how we listen. Now, when I was a kid, we had transistor radios that were this big, and an earphone. And it was my goodness, we could walk around with the radio, which was a huge thing. Prior to that, you only had the radios that were in the house. And then you could walk around. Now, that sort of stopped being cool. And then decades go by and suddenly, boom, we got earbuds, wireless and everything. You can walk. So just walking around with your music has continued to be a novelty in some capacity, and certainly wonderful to do. But it also changes your appreciation of it. Back in those days when you wanted to listen to music, much like watching TV and movies, you had to go to a place and do it. So let me just segue over to TV and movies. We do the same thing. I mean, this iPad that I'm on right now is this 6x6, and I can watch a full-length movie on that. I can listen to music on that. I can watch my TV shows on that, whatever. This is not the same. Oh, and then I can pause it. There's the button. I can fast forward, which, by the way, is always a luxury in some strange way to keep, I don't like this, move it on. And we can rewind, which is even more of a luxury. In the old days, you weren't afforded the luxury of going over what you didn't like and fast forwarding, and you certainly couldn't rewind. You just better pay attention. You blinked your eye, you stepped out of the room to go to the bathroom, and you came back in and missed something, you missed it. And there was a strictness to television and movies. It just kept on going. Once it started, it kept on going. And it didn't care if you got up and left or not. It's going to keep on going. It wasn't concerned with you. And so we had to keep going with it. But now we can't. Now doesn't matter. You can stop, go, come back tomorrow, all that stuff. How does that affect the way you listen to things? Your experience of the TV show, the movie, the music. The other thing also, and I might have mentioned this in class, is my sons, one of my sons, said, "Pop, you got to get used to not owning the music. I have all these I have these vinyl records downstairs, and I have CDs, and I've got cassettes. Especially my CDs I like, and my vinyl. I don't want to get rid of them. I feel like I'd be chopping off part of my past. But this is what I mean. I'm getting used to owning it. I've got Spotify and Sirius XM and whatever else. I've got all kinds of crap. I can listen to anything I want, but I still miss, and this is old-fashioned to say, but I still miss having the album that I could open up and read and look at the pictures and experience as another piece of art besides what I'm listening to, which you can't do with Pandora and Spotify and all the others. So ownership, even concerts have changed. Concerts have become big production numbers as opposed to just simply going to a place and watching a band play. That still exists. But the big names have big productions, big screens. How many of you watch the screen and not the stage? And then, of course, there's always those psychos that just go to a live concert and just put it all on their phones, and they're watching their phones while the artists are right there. It's kind of insane. Although my craziest notion, the thing that really gets me is people all going to, say, Madison Square Garden and watching somebody up on stage with a laptop making, was it EDM, electronic music, and people dancing, going crazy, which always seems to be like, it always just seems absurd to me. Why all congregate in the same place to watch a guy with his laptop? It's one thing to watch a band play. I know that makes me sound old-fashioned, but it just seems, again, if you step back for a second and look at the logic of it, it seems odd to do. By the way, as I'm looking at my screen, I realize those of you who have been paying attention will notice that the lamp is different. The other one was on the fritz. I had to get this. This is not even new. It's an old lamp. I don't know where I got it from. I think I stole it from the people next door. They weren't home. Anyway, so all of this goes into the choices. Now, I emailed you all about sending a song. I don't know how this is going to work. What I'm going to do is right after this, or maybe tomorrow, I'm going to make another video with about 8 or 9 songs spanning the decade 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So 8 songs. And I'm going to maybe I'm going to try to play a few bars and I'll talk about them in terms of representing the decade that it's in, which is what I'm looking for you to do with the songs that you choose. I wish there was some way we could make this more interactive. I guess we could do Zoom, but that would be chaotic, I think. If any of you are musicians and can somehow upload yourself playing a song on your guitar or your piano, that would be great. But I'm mostly looking for you guys to just go back and look at the titles of the songs that each of you put up. And as I said in the email, respond to one of them, at least one. You can do more than one if you want, but respond to at least one and say something. Say, well, that doesn't reflect this current pop culture. No way. Or it does. Say, wow, you're right, you nailed it. Or, geez, I never thought of it like that. I think that does, but maybe this one does too. Let's have a conversation. That's what the discussion board is supposed to do. You can go, there's a button you can click there and it opens up to everybody's name. You can see what they've posted. So let's try to use this way to see what people are doing and get a little conversation going. It doesn't matter if we disagree. This is what we would do in the classroom. So it's nice to hear from everybody. So I look forward to the discussion board because it's my biggest chance to get a hold of you. And of course you guys have this, so at least you have this kind of thing. So in any event, let me check my notes. I think that's everything. I'm going to go upload this now and take care of yourself. It's a nice day. The sun is out as I'm looking here, and maybe I'll try to hobble down the street, go for a walk. Peace, everybody. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.